Y'all, okay, it's time for history, and I have this book that I ordered from Scholastic. It's called Gold. It's to help us discover the history of the gold rush, and you'll hear some things that we discussed yesterday in our history lesson. So let's get to it. I'm gonna flip my phone so that you can see the pages with me. Okay, so here's this page on fool's gold. If y'all remember, Cruz brought some fool's gold to show everyone, and I also had fool's gold that came right here in this spot, and I let everyone look at it as well. So fool's gold is a mineral called pyrite. It's not actual gold, but it looks like gold, and so people are fooled into believing it is gold. They think they found something special, and it's not. So let's read this. What is fool's gold? Imagine that you're a prospector, and you see a shiny yellow pebble in a stream one day. Could it be gold? The confusion of a mineral called pyrite with real gold gave it the name fool's gold. Pyrite is not a mineral like gold. It is a combination of iron and sulfur. Unlike gold, it cannot be melted and shaped. Pyrite might not be a real gold, but it is definitely dazzling. It was even used to fire guns long ago. In fact, the word pyrite is Greek for stone which strikes fire. Now that's a cool fact because I didn't know that until I looked at the book, that it could strike fire. I'm going to read half of this story to y'all today, and I'm going to read the other half to you tomorrow. A golden surprise at Sutter's Mill. That name is familiar because I talked about it yesterday. The greatest gold discovery in history happened by accident. Before the gold rush, few people lived in Northern California, claimed by faraway Spain, and then by Mexico. The land was sparsely settled by Native Americans, farmers from America and Europe, and Spanish-speaking cattle ranchers called Californios. In the 1830s, a Swiss man named John Sutter obtained a large piece of California land from the Mexican governor. He had big plans for his land. Sutter hired workers to build a sawmill along the American River, which would be used to cut up pine trees for lumber to build a settlement. But Sutter's plans took an unexpected turn. One of the workers building the sawmill in January 24, 1848, was a man named James Marshall. As he worked, he happened to see a glint in the riverbed. He reached in and pulled out a yellow pebble, then a few more. "Boys, I believe I found gold," he told the other workers in wonder. That night, he and Sutter performed tests on the golden material to make sure it really was a precious metal and not fool's gold. So many people have confused a mineral called pyrite with gold that is commonly known as fool's gold. But Marshall and Sutter had not been fooled. The pebbles were real, pure gold. The workers on Sutter's property gave up the lumber plan and instead started looking for more gold. So here you see what is gold. Gold is an element, naturally occurring, pure substance. It can't be broken down into other materials. Gold's rareness makes it valuable. Throughout history, gold has been used to symbolize people and events that are special. Royal crowns, Olympic medals, and wedding rings are often made of gold. Gold territory. Just a few days after Marshall's gold discovery, California became a territory of the United States. A territory is an area directly controlled by the federal government without the structure of a state. But no one in Washington, D.C. knew that the territory held great riches in its soil. News of the gold find spread slowly. 4 months after this discovery at Sutter's Mill in May 1848, rumors of the find finally reached San Francisco, a town 130 miles away. One day, an excited merchant named Sam Brannan held up a clear bottle full of gold pieces in the town square, shouting, "Gold! Gold from the American River!" Within days of seeing this proof, nearly everyone in town hurried hurried to the gold fields. They closed up their shops and left their jobs, taking all the shovels and pans that they could find. Farmers left their fields and cattle, and sailors and soldiers, wind blowing, left their ships and forts. By August 1848, acting governor Colonel Richard Mason estimated that about 4,000 people were prospecting in the gold fields. Some scraped the gold out of cracks in rocks with their hunting knives. One man said to have stubbed his toe on a golden boulder. Others found nuggets the size of baseballs mixed in with the gravel of stream beds. Many dredged up amazing amounts of gold by panning in rivers or passing gravel and dirt through strainers. Because California was a territory of the United States and not a state in 1848, it was unclear what the laws were. It seemed like the land belonged to no one or to everyone alike. There were no police or taxes, and the gold-crazy prospectors weren't too concerned about following rules anyway. To keep some sort of order, each prospector chose a piece of land as his own private digging ground by filing a declaration of ownership called a claim. The size of a claim was limited to the amount of land that one man could work on his own. While the claim system seemed fair to the prospectors, it ignored the Native Americans and the Californio ranchers who already occupied the territories. As John Sutter feared, even though he had claimed the land of the first gold discovery, he was unable to keep prospectors from just helping themselves to his crops, his trees, and his cattle. He didn't make a fortune. In fact, he lost most of his land. The Mother Lode was the main tract of gold found in California. You can see it on the map. It's that yellow area. It stretched 120 miles in a thin strip north to south. Loose pieces of gold formed deep in the earth were slowly lifted to the surface by the motion of rivers. A fun fact while we're looking at this, Miss Jessica told me this, that San Francisco has a football team called the 49ers. I'm not big into sports, so I didn't know exactly. I knew it was California, but I didn't know what city. Anyways, so that's fun. The 49ers are still a football team today in California. Anyways, moving on to our lesson. In the summer of 1848, gold was relatively plentiful and could often be found close to the surface. The area of discovery was big enough that people could spread out and stake claims far apart from one another. California's governor confidently wrote, "For the present, there is room enough for all." El Dorado found at last. In the 1500s, imaginative Spanish explorers thought that the golden clothes of the Muisca tribe in South America came from an entire city made of gold. They called it the city of El Dorado, meaning the golden one. During the gold rush, California was sometimes referred to as El Dorado because it seemed like the lost treasure of the Americas had been found at last. Today, there are several towns in California named El Dorado, as well as El Dorado National Forest, near where the gold was first discovered. El Dorado County contains the land of Sutter's original holdings. You see the picture? It says, Spanish explorers searched the Americas for an imaginary city of gold. Extra, extra, gold by the bushel. There were no telephones in those days or even a telegraph line across America. The fastest way news could travel a far distance was by ship. It still took several months for word of the California gold to reach Asia, Australia, South America, and the big cities of Europe and eastern United States. The rumors seemed too good to be true, but doubts were put to rest in early December when President James Polk confirmed the discovery and put samples of California gold on display in Washington, D.C. With that assurance, many Americans were seized by gold fever or gold mania. Soon it seemed everyone was talking about the amazing wealth to be found out west. On remote farms and in bustling cities, people decided to try their luck in California. Excuse the church bell. The thousands of people who made their way west beginning in early 1849 called themselves 49ers. Most of the 49ers were young men with the means to pay for their trip. They came from a variety of backgrounds across the entire United States. There were farmers, factory workers, store clerks, blacksmiths, and even ministers and lawmakers. Here's the flag of California. When California became a state, this bare flag was adopted. Many 49ers stayed and became California citizens. Worth your weight in gold. The average price of gold in 2018 was approximately $1,250 per ounce, dollars per ounce. That's just over $20,000 per pound. To calculate the value of your body weight in gold, simply multiply your weight by $20,000. For example, if you weigh 80 pounds, the value of your weight in gold is 80 pounds times $20,000 equals $1,600,000. So that would be a fun math problem for you to do. You can pause the video and get your whiteboard and figure out what your weight is worth in gold. When you're done, you can press play again. California, here they come. Getting to California by land or sea in 1849 was a risky adventure. One inventor started selling tickets at $250 a piece for a flying machine that would take prospectors to California by air. But his invention never got off the ground. There was no way of avoiding it. The 2,000-mile or more journey was difficult and took many months. You see people traveling from all over trying to get to California. Those who lived inland outfitted wagons with oxen and supplies. They started driving west once the weather was warm in the spring of 1849. The travelers were challenged by deserts, mountains, and rivers. Many of their animals wore out and died. Although the gold seekers brought rifles for protection against the Native Americans, the real dangers on the trail were diseases like cholera. Despite their high hopes, many 49ers died along the way, going west. Starting in Boston, New York, or New Orleans, the sea route went south, here you go, all the way to the tip of South America, and then north back up the west coast of the Americas. It took at least 3 to 4 months to make the journey, and often longer. 49ers who lived close to ports went to California by ship. At first, it was exciting to be on the open sea. Many had never been far away from home before, but there were also many hardships on this route, from bad food and seasickness to the risk of disease and shipwreck. And after several weeks at sea, many voyagers regretfully wrote of being bored and being homesick. California at last. After their long voyage, the 49ers at last arrived in San Francisco Bay. Their first view was the eerie sight of hundreds of ships abandoned in the harbor. Everyone aboard had hurried to find gold fields. No sailors were left to sail the ships back home. Here's a picture of some abandoned ships in San Francisco Harbor, and they were dragged on land and used as stores, saloons, and hotels. 49ers may have tried to bring all they would need with them in their wagons or luggage, but often most of their supplies were used up along the way or had to be left behind to lighten their loads. Some had brought fancy-looking gold panning machines from stores in the East that weren't of any use. What they really needed were simple tools, heavy-duty clothes, and food. After buying tools, food, and a horse or mule, the 49ers headed northeast by wagon or steamboat to Sacramento. And the broad area of hills and rivers were where most of the best claims were. So here's a list that they needed when they were shopping. Essentials, they needed essentials. I see that coffee is on there, and that is, I'm all about it. And then if you look at the bottom, I also see the word pickles. And y'all, this is everything. So they got frying pans, a coffee pot, definitely a need. Knife, salted beef, salted bacon. The salt would preserve the meat so it wouldn't spoil because they didn't have refrigerators. Flour, jerky, oh, another one of my favorite snacks. Dried fruit, coffee, pick, axe, shovel, mining pan, tobacco, candles, and pickles. Yes, I could have been a prospector, y'all. All right, I'm gonna stop reading there, and then tomorrow we will read the rest of the story. See y'all later. Bye-bye.